Well, folks, here it is. The moment we've all been waiting for. The one film that Kevin Feige knew he was building up to from the very beginning. 5 movies worth of hype for this in Phase 1. You've heard all the buzz surrounding this film. It is one of the highest grossing movies of all time. But does it still live up to that hype? Let's find out. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to yet another brand new movie review here on the channel, and as always, I thank you all so much for stopping by, and I hope you enjoy your stay. And as you may have guessed, welcome back to the Marvel Studios playlist. I am having such a great time going through this whole universe in the build-up to Black Widow and all these other projects on Disney+. And I most recently reviewed one of the MCU's most underrated films, Captain America: The First Avenger. As per, I'll leave a link to that in the end card in case you missed it. But this time around, my friends, we're looking at The Avengers. Oh, The Avengers. Here we go. This, my friends, is what the MCU is all about. This one was directed by Joss Whedon, of course. And you guys all know that this one stars all the superheroes we've all come to know and love over the first 5 films in Phase 1. I mean, you have them all. Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth, Edward Norton Jr. Oh, sorry, Mark Ruffalo. Yeah, that one's a little bit awkward, isn't it? But you guys all get the picture. This was ultimately Kevin Feige's ultimate goal with this universe. This is his baby. And this film is instigated once Thor's evil brother Loki, played by Tom Hiddleston, gains access to the unlimited power of the energy cube known as the Tesseract. The director of S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury, played by Samuel L. Jackson, initiates a superhero recruitment effort to defeat the unprecedented threat to Earth. And you're all aware of this. Joining Fury's dream team are Iron Man, Captain America, the Hulk, Thor, Black Widow, and Hawkeye. And as has been the case with all of my Marvel reviews so far, just in case you haven't seen The Avengers yet, although I doubt that's the case with most of you. But nevertheless, this will be filled with mild to moderate spoilers, so just to give you fair warning before I trudge ahead. Okay guys, so just to answer that question that I posed at the top of this video, does The Avengers live up to the hype? Well, the simple answer to that question is yes. Yes, it does, my friends. And those of you who are longtime viewers of mine on the channel will already know this, but The Avengers is actually the film that I placed at number 10 in my top Marvel films podcast that I did with my buddy Cisco way back when. And I gotta tell you, on rewatching this film recently, it still retains that fun. It still lives up to that hype. The Avengers is freaking awesome. And a big part of that fun is, of course, seeing all of these well-established characters come together for the first time, and they are all fantastic here. Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark is once again phenomenal. He's such an arrogant sleazebag, but still manages to be super likable and charming. And we do get what I believe is the first taste of nicknames that he would give other characters in this universe. And I'll say that most of them make sense, but then you have those times where he'll just randomly call Thor point break aboard the shield carrier, and I'm just sitting there like, huh? I don't quite get that one. It's kind of random. I mean, it's funny, don't get me wrong, but just kind of, it doesn't exactly fit. Speaking of, I might as well mention, because he's my favorite character in this universe, Chris Hemsworth as Thor is once again a freaking badass. I mean, just the stuff he does wielding the hammer and shooting all that lightning, all of it looks just superb. And he's got a really interesting connection with Loki in this one. Tom Hiddleston, by the way, fantastic as the main villain. He's shown so much leaps and bounds of an improvement from the first Thor solo flick. But he is just relishing every frame he's in, isn't he? But I mentioned that interesting connection because you might be aware, the Avengers don't fully trust Thor early on. Because remember, Thor is the one that frees Loki out of that shield plane near the end of the first act because he's planning on beating the information out of him himself about where the Tesseract is. But Tony Stark and Steve Rogers incorrectly see this as a rescue mission, and they incorrectly assume that Thor is working against them. And that leads into one of my favorite action sequences in this film, the Shakespeare in the Park stuff. Oh god, guys, this is just so cool. cool. Finally. Okay, this is the point where I remember sitting in the theater for the first time. This is the point where I first vividly remember people going bananas. And scenes like that one are pretty much indicative of what the Avengers is from scene 1. It's just a bunch of heroes and villains who we've all come to love and loathe shoot one-liners at each other and blow shit up. And it is non-stop. It is fun. The CG, seamless. The action, super badass. Joss Whedon's direction, on point. I mean, everybody working on this film was just on fire. And that includes Chris Evans as Steve Rogers, and he is fantastic once again. This is also the first time we kind of see this old man interact with the modern world, and it was just really funny to see him marvel at the electric stuff on the shield carrier. It appears to be some form of electrical wiring. Now, I should also mention Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye at this point, because he was introduced, albeit briefly, in the first Thor film. We get a lot more development from him here, and I gotta say, Jeremy Renner, with his material, he is just phenomenal. And I don't think he really gets enough credit for this performance, because he's given a wide range of stuff to explore. Because you'll remember, the first half of this film, Hawkeye's been pretty much brainwashed under Loki's magic staff. But then once he starts wielding that bow and arrow in the Battle of New York, like we've all come to know him for, so awesome. Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow. By the way, Disney, still waiting on that Solo film. I am praying that you do not delay that again. Just throwing that out there. But she's even more of a badass in here than she was in Iron Man 2, huh? I mean, there's times where I think she's actually my favorite of the bunch in this film. But the more and more I think about it, guys, you want to know who really steals the show in this Avengers film? Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner / the Hulk. He is astounding in this film. Now, don't get me wrong. As I mentioned in my previous review for the Hulk, I thought Edward Norton did fantastic with the material. And I do think it would have been nice to see him in this film. I remember it being very jarring when I saw Mark Ruffalo doing this the first time. But I've really grown to appreciate how Mark Ruffalo approaches this role and how he continues to approach this role ever since, because nobody else has stepped into it. He just has that look in his eyes that tells me that he's got an anger problem. And you could tell that he's tired. He's spent. Because you could tell that this is a guy who's investing pretty much most of his time trying to keep all that Hulk madness contained. But then, in Hulk, smash. That smile Mark Ruffalo gives Cap just before he starts jumping off of skyscrapers, that really says a lot, doesn't it? Speaking of awesomeness, you guys already all know about the Battle of New York. That whole climax, that to me is cinematic blockbuster perfection. And yeah, I mean, what more can be said about it that hasn't already been said? I legitimately never want that sequence to end every time I watch it. But here's the thing, guys. I really, I mean, say whatever you want about him nowadays, but I really respect how Joss Whedon approached his direction with this film, especially during this climax, because you could clearly tell, and he clearly wanted you to understand, that every single one of these heroes has a distinct fighting style to get rid of these villains. And I love that about this climax. Also, just this shot alone, that really tells the whole story, doesn't it? Yeah, I mean, look at this. This is just blockbuster. I love it. You guys can tell, clearly. I can go all day, just on and on, spewing my love for the Avengers. It really is a game changer in modern cinematic history, as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, I will say my issue with this film is sadly a very prevalent one. Like, if you really sit here and think about this plot structuring, like if you really sat here and analyzed this story beat for beat, it really doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? And I personally think it can tend to be a little bit uneven sometimes, getting from point A to point B. As Tony Stark would say, not a good plan. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's baseline, and it's there for sure. I do think it still feels overall coherent as its story, like it still has a beginning, middle, and end. But as I've previously stated, most of this film just feels like comedic one-liners and big badass explosions. But just put the story and the plotline aside for a second. Put all the storytelling elements aside. Just turn your brain off for a second. In the year 2012, were any of us really going to the theater to see the Avengers for the story? Probably not. We were all more than likely to see an unprecedented cinematic event go down before our eyes. A group of superheroes who've already had all of their solo films come out before this, and they're all coming together under one roof, this same time continuum. Keep in mind, it's never been done before, but they come together to kick ass for us for a couple of hours. I mean, in a sense, that's all we really wanted to see. I mean, we want to see Iron Man flying around everywhere. We want to see Cap throwing his shield. We want to see Thor spin his hammer and obliterate folks. And we want to see Hulk smash shit up. And they gave us that in spades and then some. And I still really, really enjoy this, guys. I think Kevin Feige is honestly a fucking genius for setting all this up. It's still one of my personal sentimental favorites in this whole universe. I'm gonna give the Avengers an A. This is what modern blockbusters are all about. All the biggest characters coming together under one roof to kick some alien ass for a couple of hours. And sometimes, that's all you can really ask for in a superhero flick these days. Story out of the way. A movie like this in 2012 had never been done before, and it never would be done. Well, actually, it would be done again many times. But nevertheless, it exceeded expectations. I know you all have seen this. Do you enjoy the Avengers? Do you not? What is your favorite MCU crossover up to this point? I would love to discuss all of these thoughts all down in the comments below. If you guys are enjoying this content, and if you guys are looking for a place to continue discussing cinema and all things entertainment, well, this channel might be the one for you, my friends. So if you guys are new here, or if you haven't already, please do consider hitting that big red subscribe button down below as hard as you possibly can, because you folks will be the first ones to know anytime I upload a new video over here, and it's also free. It really would help out my channel immensely. And if you guys liked this video also, please be sure to leave a big fat thumbs up on your way out too. I'd really appreciate that. And as per, look out for more exciting content hitting this channel very, very soon. Unbelievably, this is only the beginning of the Marvel series. We're far from done with the Marvel reviews. We're gonna kickstart Phase 2 very, very soon. And next up on this countdown is, let's see. Oh, mother of fucking God. Iron Man 3. Yeah, look out for that review pretty soon. I'm so excited. And I have been getting a lot of questions about when I'm going to review WandaVision, or even if I'm going to review it. And the answer is, of course. But that'll be one big video for the entire season once all 9 episodes are out. So once the season finale hits, definitely expect my video then, just to keep things uniform with all the TV stuff here. But stay tuned for all of this Marvel talk and much, much more to come. You guys are awesome. With all that being said, back talk, commence.